It's been a while since I did one of these, so let's get to it. What's your favorite horror franchise? I gotta go with Friday the 13th. It's the series that I feel has been the most consistent with their movies. The only one that I dislike is 9, Jason Goes to Hell, and that was the one when they were going through the transition period from Paramount to New Line. And New Line wanted to shake up the series, and so they did all kinds of crazy, wacky shit, like making the movie not really about Jason Voorhees, and just so many stupid moments. So I really don't like 9. But 1 through 8, I very much enjoy. I love Jason X, and I love Freddy vs. Jason. What movie should be remade? There's a movie from the mid-90s called Project Metal Beast. It's about a soldier who gets either bitten or scratched by a werewolf, and he becomes a werewolf. So on this government facility, they capture him, and they put him in cryogenic sleep. Years and years later, they end up using his corpse to apply this new synthetic skin. And the new synthetic skin, it was something that they were developing for soldiers that makes them bulletproof. So while they're working on his corpse, they're adding the synthetic skin to him. And they get maybe like 60% of his skin covered. And a full moon wakes him up out of his coma, and he transforms into a werewolf. However, he's now a bulletproof werewolf. So you've got this killing machine running rampant on a military base, and the only way to kill him is to shoot him with a silver bullet, but you can't because he's bulletproof. I always thought that this was an idea that was great, and the movie is still a lot of fun. It's definitely worth watching, but it's something that would definitely benefit from a remake. What's the story with that awesome intro theme? That's actually done by my good friends in the band Psycho Stick. They are a really kick-ass metal band. Their songs are very witty and a lot of fun. They do songs about Bruce Campbell. They do songs about beer. They do a really excellent song about Mega Man that just came out not that long ago. They're big fans of a lot of the stuff that I like, really bad B movies, and so they were cool enough to do that little intro tune for me. They also did the intro for 2 other ones. They did a song for Uninvited, which also doubles as the outro music. They did another one for a movie called Anonymous Rex, and that's a movie that I should be doing eventually. They're great. They're an awesome bunch of guys. If you like metal, you should definitely go and subscribe to their channel and buy a t-shirt and buy one of their CDs and send them drinks and go see them in concert because they're fantastic. What movie most disappointed you? I'm sure there's a better answer for this, but I would have to go with Superman Returns. I was so excited to see this movie because Bryan Singer was directing, and he had just gotten done with X-Men 1 and 2, and they were terrific, and man, was I pissed. Because the movie was a very bad retelling of the first Superman. Instead of Lex Luthor creating an earthquake that would sink the West Coast, he was creating a continent out of kryptonite that was going to flood the world and everyone was going to pay him to live on it. Wow, what a gigantic pile of garbage. If you could work with any existing director, who would it be? I'd have to work with Kevin Smith. He was a huge influence on me in the 90s. He wasn't making these over-the-top films. He was making these very small, personal comedies. And he's since branched out. He's done some horror. He did that buddy cop movie, Cop Out, which unfortunately I just hate. But I still love him. I'd love to work with him because it just would be an honor. And like I was saying, he influenced me to want to make movies. Now, I've worked on a few little nothing projects, but I've never actually been able to make my own movie. But who knows? Maybe one day I will. What's your favorite toy line as a kid? It's a toss-up. I would say either Mask or He-Man. Who's your favorite video game villain? I'm going to go with an oddball here and say Dr. West from the original Splatterhouse. He's the final boss. You don't see him until the very, very end of the game, but he's been mutated. The first time I played it scared the living shit out of me because you get all the way to the end of the level and all of a sudden you're at his grave and this gigantic melted head comes out of the ground, and then these 2 giant hands come up, and they start swatting at you, and you just have to keep kicking him in the face until you kill him. There are a lot of other ones that I really like, but that one just always stuck with me. What's it like working with the ESCAPIST? They've been great. I'm incredibly happy to be working with them. It feels good. For those of you who don't know, the main series, the videos that come out on Monday, if you want to see them a week early, you can watch them over at The Escapist. What happens is they run them there for a week, and then after that week is up, they get a new video from me, and last week's video goes up on YouTube. So if ever you want to see one of the main shows early, head over to The Escapist. You'll catch it a week early. What's your favorite Hitchcock film? I have to go with The Birds. For somebody to take something as not threatening as birds. Now, I'm not talking eagles and hawks and falcons. I'm talking just regular birds, and have that be terrifying. That is not an easy thing to do. Hitchcock is just a masterful storyteller when it comes to suspense and horror. I love Psycho and Frenzy and Rear Window and so many of his movies, but The Birds just always stands out. What's your opinion on the current state of horror? I know a lot of people like to say the current state of horror is completely in the toilet, and I disagree with that because horror, like a lot of other genres, there's an ebb and flow to it. So yes, there's going to be terrible movies like The Gallows or franchises that have long overstayed their welcome, like The Paranormal Activities. Just a lot of bad horror films that are aimed at kids, like Ouija. So it's not the glory days of the 80s where we had awesome slasher after awesome slasher, and it's not the 90s where we had the rise of the quote-unquote meta horror films. That was kind of a mixed bag, but right now, it's hard to say that horror's in trouble when you have a brilliant movie like It Follows comes out, and that actually gets a lot of attention. Now, if it came out and it was completely under the radar, then I'd say that maybe we're in trouble. But It Follows came out and got tons of attention, didn't go over huge at the box office, but that kind of movie will be remembered and watched and viewed and loved long after all of these terrible horror movies that are currently coming out. They'll be long since forgotten, but It Follows will be up there with Halloween and the original Friday the 13th and the original Nightmare on Elm Street. People will be talking about that movie and dissecting it for years. And over-budgeted, unscary garbage, like a lot of the PG-13 horror films that have been coming out lately, will just be forgotten. They made their money up front, then no one will ever watch them again. So the current state of horror, I think, is just fine. I could do with some more horror films that are actually aimed at adults. I would love it if they'd knock it off with the boost scares, and if they could cut it out with all the remakes, I'd really appreciate that. But there's always going to be trouble. There's always going to be bad sequels to good horror movies, movies that definitively had an ending, that they wanted to turn it into a franchise, and then the franchise just is not scary and doesn't work. I'd like it if we could get into some more original ideas, and I'm not against bringing old styles back. Like, I really dug The Green Inferno, which was a throwback to the old cannibal movies. That was great. I hope you enjoyed this. I've still got plenty more to answer, and I will do that in a future video. But that's all I got for now. I'll see you next time.